The wind howled across the old arena on the desert world of Valkaris. Sand blew through broken stone arches, and the ground was cracked and dry. In the center stood two warriors, both silent, both waiting. All around them, thousands of alien eyes watched from the stands members of the Zelari Dominion, tall, cold, and proud. They had ruled this part of the galaxy for generations. But now they were watching a duel that could change everything. Leah Morgan stood straight, her boots digging into the sand. Her armor was old Terran tech, worn smooth in places, but strong. Her blade was longer than most, with a black edge and strange red lines carved into the metal. These lines weren't just decorations, they were glyphs. She didn't know exactly what they meant. No one did anymore. But she had trained with this sword for years, and she trusted it more than she trusted anyone else. Across from her stood Varn Zareth, the champion of the Zelari. He was taller than Leah by at least a foot, with thick gray skin and sharp eyes that seemed to burn with hate. His armor was polished and heavy, showing the mark of a high-born warrior. He didn't smile, he didn't speak, he only raised his blade in a slow, perfect motion. The duel was meant to be fair. One fight to decide a conflict between Earth and the Zelari. Leah had been chosen by the Terran Vanguard to represent humanity. Varn had been chosen by the Dominion to end the argument with strength. The rules were simple. First blood would decide the outcome. A bell rang once. Varn charged. Leah stepped sideways, fast and smooth. She had watched the way the Zelari moved. They were powerful, but they didn't like to change direction. Varn swung his blade in a wide arc, and she ducked under it. Sand flew as their weapons clashed. Sparks flew when metal hit metal. For long minutes they fought. The crowd watched in silence. Leah kept moving, always one step ahead, never standing still. She was smaller, lighter, and faster. Then she saw her opening. Varn lifted his sword to strike, but he left his hand unguarded. Leah turned her blade and cut across his palm just a thin line, quick and clean. The crowd gasped. Blood dripped onto the sand. It was over, or it should have been. The moment her blade cut Varn's skin, the red glyphs on the sword began to glow. At first it was faint, like heat rising from stone. Then the light grew brighter, sharper. The lines on her blade blazed like fire. Leah froze. The sword hummed in her hand. Her fingers tingled. Something deep inside the metal had awakened. She had never seen this before. Not in training, not in battle. Across the arena, something strange happened. The Zelari, in the stands, hundreds of them, maybe more, dropped to one knee. All of them, at once. No order had been given, no signal. They bowed their heads. Leah looked around, heart racing. Even Varn stared at her with wide eyes. His hand still bled, but he didn't move. He didn't speak. Leah took a step back, her sword still glowing in the fading light. What had just happened? She wasn't sure, but one thing was clear. This duel had unlocked something much bigger than a simple fight. And whatever it was, it had begun with her. The silence in the arena lasted longer than it should have. Leah stood still, her sword glowing in her hand, her breath coming fast. The red light from the glyphs on the blade painted the sand like blood. She looked at the Zelari warriors all around her, still on their knees, their heads low. It was like they were waiting for something, or someone. Varn slowly stepped back, holding his bleeding palm. His eyes were locked on Leah's sword, but his face showed no anger now. Instead, there was something else. Fear, confusion, even respect. Guards rushed into the arena from the far end, dressed in black armor and holding long shock spears. They pointed their weapons at Leia, but didn't get too close. No one wanted to touch her. No one wanted to touch the sword. One of the Zelari leaders, a tall figure with golden armor and long white hair, walked into the center of the arena. His name was High Elder Chiron. He looked old, but his voice was strong when he spoke. "Bring the human," he said. Leah looked at the Terran officers standing behind the force field at the edge of the arena. They couldn't help her now. She slowly lowered her sword and let the guards take her. They did not chain her. They didn't even touch the blade. They only walked beside her, quiet and nervous. They took her deep underground into the cold stone tunnels beneath Valkaris. The air was damp and still. The room they placed her in was small, but clean. No windows. It's just one metal door and a single light on the ceiling. She sat on the bench, sword still resting beside her. The blade no longer glowed, but it felt warm against her leg. Hours passed. Then the door opened. A human officer stepped inside. His name was Daniel Crow, a science officer from the Terran Vanguard. He was tall, with short black hair and kind eyes. Leah stood up fast. "Are you all right?" he asked. "I think so," she said. "What?" But something happened out there. The sword had lit up. "What?" And they all dropped to their knees. "I saw," Daniel said, stepping closer. "We all saw. We've been scanning the glyphs on your blade for months, but we never got a full reading. It's old, tech really old. Pre-collapse, maybe even first colonies." Leah looked at the sword. But why would it react to Varn's blood? Daniel sighed and pulled out a small device. "I ran a scan on the sample from his wound. I wasn't supposed to, but I did it anyway." "Leah, his DNA shows human markers." She stared at him. "What kind of markers? Not just mixed genes. These are direct mitochondrial strands from early Terran settlers." "From Earth?" Leah felt her heart thumped harder in her chest. "You're saying he's part human?" Daniel nodded. "He's not the only one. From what I can tell, the entire Zellery high blood line was created using human genetic material. They've been hiding it for generations. Sword didn't react to just blood, it reacted to a broken oath, a forgotten connection." Leah sat down again, trying to understand. "So the sword, it remembers something." "It's possible. The glyphs on your blade might be bound to some kind of old protocol, something designed to protect or punish those who broke an ancient Terran alliance." She looked at the blade again. It sat there quietly now, harmless and still. But she could feel it. It was waiting. She didn't know what for. But deep down, she had a feeling. This was only the beginning. The lights in Leah's cell flickered once, then held steady. She sat with her back to the wall, the sword across her knees. Daniel had left an hour ago, and no one else had come. The silence felt heavy, like the whole world above had stopped breathing. Her hand rested on the hilt. It was strange how the blade felt alive now, not moving, not shaking, but aware, like it could hear her thoughts. She didn't know how to explain it. It was just a feeling in her bones. Then the door clicked open again. This time, it wasn't Daniel. A Zellery stepped in, but not a soldier. He wore long gray robes and carried no weapon. His eyes were sharp, but not unkind. He gave a small bow before speaking. "My name is Naran," he said. "I am a scholar. May I speak with you?" Leah stayed silent for a moment, then nodded. Naran stepped in and closed the door behind him. He looked at the sword. "I have read about weapons like that," he said quietly. "Long ago, during the time your people called the first expansion, your kind brought not just machines, but oaths. Deep ones, bound into blood, into metal, into code."
Ow.
"You mean the glyphs?" Leah said. "Yes," Naran replied. "But more than that. Those glyphs are part of a lock, or perhaps a key. I believe your sword is tied to a protocol we have lost, one that recognizes truth and betrayal." Leah looked up. "You knew?" "No," Naran said. "But I suspected. Our leaders teach us that we are pure. We are born of the stars, shaped by ancient gods. But some of us know better. I have seen records, hidden ones. Stories of humans who vanished from the galaxy, then returned stronger than before." He paused. "The blood in Varn is not a shame. It is a truth. A truth the Dominion has tried to erase." Leah stood. "Then why did they choose him to fight me?" "I thought you would lose," Naran said simply. "And if he won, it would bury the secret. But your sword saw what they feared, and now they are afraid." A soft hum filled the room. Leah looked down. The glyphs on her sword had started to glow again, slowly, like a heartbeat. Naran stepped back. "It reacts to knowledge," he whispered, "to truth being spoken. The sword is listening." The door burst open. 2 Zellery guards rushed in. "The prisoner must come," one said. "Now." They grabbed Leah's arm. Naran tried to speak, but they pushed him aside. The sword was still in her hand, glowing brighter. But she didn't fight them, not yet. They led her through stone halls until they reached a deep chamber. In the center was a tall platform with strange lights circling above it. High Elder Chiron waited there with a group of silent figures behind him. He looked at her blade. "You carry something ancient," he said. "Something we do not understand. We must take it. Leah shook her head. You're afraid of what it knows. It knows too much, Chiron replied. And so do you. He raised his hand. The guards moved closer. Then the sword screamed. Not with sound, but with light. The glyphs burst to life, flooding the room in red glow. The ground shook. The guards fell back. One of the figures behind Chiron dropped to their knees without meaning to. Then another. And another. Leah raised the sword. It no longer felt like just a weapon. It felt like a memory waking up. The past had not been lost. It had only been waiting. Now it was awake. The floor of the chamber was cracked where the sword's light had struck. Smoke drifted in the air. The guards had backed away. High Elder Chiron stood frozen, his hand still raised, but his face had changed. The calm was gone. Now there was only fear. Leah lowered her sword slowly. The red glow faded, but the heat remained in the air. Her breathing was steady. She had not attacked anyone. The sword had acted on its own, just for a moment, and it had been enough. This is not just a weapon, Chiron said in a low voice. It's a signal. Leah said nothing. Her eyes locked with his. You must silence it. One of the other elders said. You can try, Leah answered. Then a new sound came. The walls began to shake, not from the sword, but from something far away. A loud alarm echoed through the stone halls. It was not Zelaritek. It was older, deeper. Naran rushed into the room, his robes moving with the wind that now poured through the open door. He looked at Leah. You opened it, he said. Opened what? She asked. The vault, Naran said. It was buried under the old city, sealed for 300 years. The sword's energy reached it. It's waking up. Leah followed him out of the chamber, sword in hand. The guards didn't stop her this time. Outside, in the pale blue sky above Valkaris, a beam of red light shot into the clouds. Dust and sand swirled below it, and a deep hum rose from the ground. Daniel Crow met them at the edge of the stone path. His eyes were wide. You need to see this, he said. Together they moved across the old roads of the city toward the base of the beam. It led them to a massive crack in the ground. From it a platform had risen metal, smooth and dark, shaped like a circle. On it stood machines no one had seen before. Not Zalari, not human. They were Terran. They're from Earth's first fleets, Daniel said. These are defense systems linked to something bigger. Your sword turned them on. Nerone walked forward slowly, then dropped to one knee. This land was not just visited by humans, he said. It was ruled by them. My people are not the first. We're only the ones who stayed. Leah stepped onto the platform. The machines turned toward her but did not attack. One screen lit up. Words appeared on it. Old Terran code. Welcome, Vanguard Commander. No, I'm not a commander. You are now, he said. A voice came from the machines. Cold, sharp, and clear. Alliance protocol. Zatnine active. Oathbreaker signature detected. Defense grid online. Leah understood now. The sword had not judged Varn's blood. It had judged his betrayal. Somewhere in the past, his bloodline had sworn loyalty to Earth. That oath had been broken. The sword had remembered, and now the system had remembered too. Across the city, lights turned on in long-dead towers. Hidden guns slid from the sides of old walls. Drones rose into the air, scanning the sky. The whole world was waking up. Then came the message. From deep space, a signal arrived. It was Varn. He had fled the arena and taken control of a hidden fleet. His face appeared on the screen. You were not meant to survive, he said to Leah. But now that you have, I will end it myself. Earth will burn. The screen went dark. Leah tightened her grip on the sword. Oh, she said, Earth will rise. The time for truth was over. The time for war had come. The stars above Valkaris were no longer calm. Varn's fleet had arrived. Giant black ships moved into orbit, casting long shadows over the desert world. Their engines burned with blue fire, and their weapons were fully charged. From the command deck of his flagship, Varen watched the planet below. His face was hard, his voice cold. Prepare all weapons, he said. End this. On the surface, Leah stood on the raised platform near the old machines. The sky above her was lit with flashes of red and white. Explosions filled the upper atmosphere. The Zalari fleet was fighting itself, some ships loyal to Varn, others turning against him. The truth about the high bloodline had already spread. Many now questioned everything they had been told. Leah looked up at the chaos. Her sword rested in her hand, glowing once more. The glyphs on the blade pulsed like a heart. Beside her stood Daniel, his fingers flying over the control panel. Naren was near the edge, looking to the sky with silent fear. "We can't hold them off from here," Daniel said. "The defense grid is powerful, but not strong enough to stop a whole fleet." Leah looked at the machines. "There's more, isn't there? Something hidden." Daniel nodded. "The AI inside the system is trying to unlock something deeper, a final protocol. But it needs direct contact. It needs you." Leah stepped forward. The machines reacted at once. Lights moved. The platform began to rise. Metal arms reached out, scanning her sword, her blood, her DNA. "Commander confirmed," the AI voice said. "Vault-class ship recognized. Awakening process begun." The ground rumbled. In the distance, the desert split open. Sand poured into a deep crack. From the depths, a shape rose. It was a ship, not like any seen in the present age. Sleek and sharp, with a hull that shimmered like liquid metal. The Terran flag from centuries past still marked its side, faded but clear. The Leviathan-class cruiser, Sol's Echo, had returned. Leah ran toward it, the platform lowering her to the surface. As she stepped aboard, the ship's systems came alive. Doors opened, lights followed her path. The ship remembered her. She reached the bridge. Daniel and Naren followed. The crew seats were empty, but the AI filled the silence. Primary weapon systems online, target locked. On the main screen, Varn's flagship was marked in red. "Fire," Leah said. A beam of pure white light shot into the sky, tore through Varn's shields and slammed into the side of his ship. Explosions spread across its surface. One engine broke apart, sending debris into space, but it was not enough. Varn's ship turned and fired back. The beam hit the surface near the vault, shaking the entire area. Dust and fire filled the air. "Shields at 60%, the AI said. Leah took a deep breath. "Then we go up." Engines roared to life. The Sol's Echo lifted into the sky, rising past the broken towers and into orbit. Around them, Zelari ships moved aside. Some followed. Some tried to stop them. None could match their speed. On the enemy bridge, Varn watched as the Terran ship closed in. "This is not over," he said, but it was. Leah's ship reached the flagship. With one last command, she fired again. This time, the shot hit the heart of Varn's ship. The explosion lit the stars. Silence followed. The battle was over. Back on Valkyris, the people watched the sky. They saw the Terran ship rise, not as a weapon, but as a symbol. Forgotten truth had returned. A leader had been born. Leah stood on the bridge, the sword at her side. The glyphs faded. The mission was complete. Earth had not fallen. It had risen.